Hi everyone, Jennifer Krudbos here. Happy New Year. I'm coming to you to chat about the four things that I chat about, which are conscious activism, grief, eating disorders, and essential oils. The things that are really making me excited about life, that make me feel engaged, and what I want to share. And since this is the beginning of the new year, for myself, I'm making this a year about staying engaged, not allowing myself to fall into apathy. And one of the main ways I'm doing that is through these videos, through the work that I'm doing. I'm also giving up drinking. Not that I had an addictive problem or an issue with it at all. Hi, Sonia. But mostly because I just don't feel like I'm at my best. I'm so sensitive. I'm a highly sensitive person, if you know what that is. And when I drink, I just feel it in my nervous system. Even the last glass of bubbles that I had was New Year's Eve, and I felt like I had like 2 glasses. And the next day I was just had such a headache. And this is a really big year in terms of what I want to create. And it just doesn't feel worth it anymore to do that. So that's part of how I'm staying clear so I can show up for the things that are really important to me this year. So one of the things that I'll be doing in about 2 weeks with my friend Kamiko, which I'm a little nervous to share because, you know, the writers say don't bring politics and stuff into your work, but it's part of who I am, so I can't hide it. But I will be going to the Women's March on Washington on January 21st. And for those of you who don't know, this march is mostly women and feminists. Feminists can be men too. That are standing together. I'm reading this from the Eventbrite site. We stand together in solidarity with our partners and children for the protection of our rights, our safety, our health, and our families. The rhetoric of the past election has insulted, demonized, and threatened many of us, women, immigrants of all statuses, those with diverse religious faiths, particularly Muslim, people who identify as LGBTQIA, Native and Indigenous people, Black and Brown people, people with disabilities, the economically impoverished, and survivors of sexual assault. We are confronted with the question of how to move forward in the face of national and international concern and fear. So because I'm able to, I'm going. I also donated some money to support other people who maybe don't have the means to go, because it, of course, costs money to be able to drive there and stay in a hotel room and so forth. So frontline activism is not usually my style, and this opportunity has presented itself, so I'm going to see. And I don't quite have a very specific agenda or know what will happen, but it felt important for me to go, and there was a lift, there's a hotel room to stay in, so we're going, and the idea is that I could connect with some other like-minded people, because community is everything. What we can create together is how movements happen and how change happens. So if maybe you want to come with me, it's happening in 2 weeks in Washington, or maybe you want to support someone else that can go. So that's the conscious activism for this month. For next month, I'm so excited because Vanessa and I will be doing the Yoga in Action, which is an amazing event. It's a 7-module training that will be done over 2 weekends. And it is happening February 17th, that weekend, and the weekend of March 10th. And this is from the Facebook page. I'll tag it. The purpose limiting. The 7-part program is the journey from the personal to the interpersonal. It is to deeply know our connection to all things and allow this to be a source of inspiration and support in our lives. So how can what we practice on the mat turn into how we live our lives, how we spend our dollars, how we speak, the causes that we support, how we hold space for each other, how we turn what moves us into action. Because in my experience, when I'm not actively taking the energy of what breaks my heart and turning it into something that's meaningful, it just sort of festers and it becomes really uncomfortable. And it's in those moments where I want to not take as good care of myself. And when I don't take as good care of myself, I'm not as kind, I'm not as present for my students, for my family members, for my friends. So it becomes this really positive cycle. So I'll tag it here. I really hope that you share it with a friend, or maybe you come. We do have at least 7 spaces available, if not more at the moment. So that is Yoga in Action, February 17th to the 19th and March 10th to 12th, those 2 weekends. It's going to be amazing. It's at Studio Breathe. It's in the building of Studio Breathe. It's actually in the TRX room, which is called You But Better. So check it out. All right. Next week, starting up at the Children's Hospital, I restart the first series of a mindfulness and yoga for teens with eating disorders. And I don't know if you've noticed, but everyone seems to be going on a detox in January. And that is fine if it's to feel good. And my personal practice is that at this point in my life, detoxes or any sort of way to control food become problematic, because it can so not always, but it can become a way where we are trying to control the stressful and emotional events in our life with the food on our plate. So because I'm starting up the sessions again, I dug into Janine Roth's work. I don't know if you have read any of her work, which is, she has written so many amazing books. One is Women, Food, and God. I love this woman so much. She talks about just the chaotic life that dieting and controlling one's body's shape and weight, how crazy making it can be. From a feminist perspective, if you've read The Beauty Myth or any of this, I talk about this with the teens, and they get it, by the way. Like 12-year-olds get this concept that all the money and energy and time spent trying to control our bodies and lose 5 pounds or tone up or make our butts look like that or our shoulders look like this, it's just distracting us from being, having agency in the world and making a difference and supporting each other and connecting with each other, right? It can. Sometimes it's really joyful to go to a class. I'm going to go to this, Suad's teaching this kind of like booty, ballet booty class. And it's fun to dance around, but the intention I'm bringing into it is very different from what it used to be, where it used to be I have to look good. Now it's like, I want to dance around, listen to music, and connect with these fun, amazing people that are there. Hi, Susie. So I'm going to read a few things. This is kind of heartbreaking, but it's really important and really amazing to read. One second, I just have to plug in my computer. Sorry, not as professional as I would like to be. One sec. So let me plug this in. Oh my God. There we go. Okay, we're all good. So I'm going to read 2 things which really speak to how any sort of eating disorder is really not about food. Okay, this is what Janine Roth says. So what I'm going to start is, I'll start with a quote from her book. And she says, it's Janine Roth, "If you try to lose weight by shaming, depriving, and fearing yourself, you will end up shamed, deprived, and afraid. Kindness comes first, always." And this is absolutely true. After 3 years of working with teens, so they do anonymous questions, right? They send me anonymous questions. So I keep them all from over the years. And not once have they ever asked me, how can I, make a flat tummy? all of their questions have to do with their emotions and their self-love. So these are from girls that range from 11 to 15. One says, how do I stay positive even when I'm going through a hard time? One says, thank you very much. I really feel appreciated in the meeting we had today. It made me feel better. I feel relaxed, which is a feeling I'm not very used to. Do you think we can face a difficult situation when people judge you? Or when people judge us, she means. So you see, it's really about using food as a way to try and control the sometimes chaotic, difficult experience of being alive. It's just a tool. I'll read one more. She says, I feel my overpowering and controlling mind has made me lose touch with my body. Do you have tricks or a certain mentality that could help me with reconnecting? I want to feel like I can trust my body again. Okay? Controlling and dieting and detoxing, in my opinion, will not help bolster trust in one's body, right? It's treating our body as something that needs to be controlled and caged, and otherwise it's going to sort of run crazy and do things that we can't trust. And the last one, it's not here, but ever since I read it, it's been tattooed in my mind. This is from a 13-year-old, and she wrote to me, how can I feel free in this society? So the eating disorder, and these are acute circumstances where these girls have been pulled out of school and they're either inpatients or they're outpatients at the hospital. But the point is that the food is really just a tool, right? It's a symptom of what a lot of the media teaches, which is thinness is equal to happiness. And with very little guidelines on what can make someone feel happy, the girls get into a point of dieting or anorexia or bulimia to the point that they're now hospitalized and at dangerously low weights. So I will share, so please, go and read this, or just Google anything by Geneen Roth. For this session, she actually has a Women, Food, and God coloring book with these beautiful quotes of these beautiful things to color. So I'm going to integrate that into our sessions. We do yoga, we do mindfulness, we talk about the inner critic. I'm so excited for it to start. But if you do want to know, most of the book talks about just how it's not about the food, how it is about emotions. But she does have these eating guidelines at the end. Oh, so good. I love it too, Estelle. And she does have guidelines, and they are so hard to follow. And for those of you, she says that when it comes to food, there's either the controller, which I definitely was more on that side, like control, count, do the little MyFitness thing, like count all the calories. Or there is I forget the word, but it's like the enjoyer. And that person will often say, oh, better to be fat and happy, or like life's too short, while they're consuming, let's say, like hot fudge sundaes and all of this. And neither one are happy, right? The controller isn't happy because he is controlling every little last thing. And the enjoyer is also not happy because the enjoyer is buffering any sort of emotion with just really numbing it with food under the guise of I'm enjoying life so much, but actually it doesn't feel good to start to get connected. So what Geneen talks about is getting connected and eating in a mindful way. So her guidelines, she has 7 of them. One is eat when you're hungry. And for a person who has been anorexic or bulimic, this is very hard to start, especially the teens that I work with. They don't even know what hunger feels like. They are cut off at the neck. They are so in their heads, they don't know what their body feels like. So through rolling and breathing and yoga and practice, just starting to feel what hunger feels like is already a feat in itself. So if you are even able to know when you're hungry, that's fantastic. Next is eating down in a calm environment. This does not include the car. I'll acknowledge that this is hard. I even had a little granola bar thing on the metro home today just because I was hungry. I could have waited till I was at home, but so still working on it. I am not teaching stuff that I'm perfect at. Number 3, eat without distractions. This is the hardest one, I'd say. Distractions include radio, television, newspaper, books, intense anxiety-producing conversations, or music. The music one, I love to put on Nina Simone and eat my dinner. But because I'm, getting back into teaching this content, I'm not, and I have to say that I experience the food a lot more. I'm a lot more satisfied. I'm a lot more grateful because I'm actually paying attention to all this amazing, delicious food. And I know when I'm full. It's like the difference between one bite and the other. And if I was caught up in listening to music or the radio or a podcast or reading something, then I might miss that. I might miss that cue. So don't listen to music. Eat what your body wants. So the controllers out there are going to say, what? I can't eat what I want. I'll get so fat. But this is the thing. When you start to listen to what your body wants, when I start to listen to what my body wants, yeah, sometimes I want chocolate. But, when I'm not in my mind and I'm not numbing out an uncomfortable emotion, I just really want 1 or 2 bites. After that, I get a headache. I'm actually even beginning to not like chocolate as much the more I pay attention. I know that might be blasphemous. That's where I'm at now. And the other thing is that my body genuinely craves whole grains and salads and veggies and, things that aren't so loaded with sugar and salt and fat. So it might take a while to get there if that's been your norm. And if your body, if you crave whatever it is, like a frozen pizza or whatever, allow yourself to eat that. Just really pay attention. Don't let it be like, I'm doing this because it's so bad and I'm rebelling against all this control, right? Just the guidelines are to take the heady mental part out of it. And the other one is eat with the intention of being in full view of others. So taking away that's to really break the sort of binge yo-yo diet habit, which I had for years. It was this weird, you don't eat so much in public and then eat more in private. That's building a sense of self-worth and self-love, a sort of sense I'm allowed to be here and enjoy life and experience this food. And then that leads into number 7, eat with enjoyment, gusto, and pleasure. And this is an ongoing thing. And she doesn't suggest that this is going to take away any sort of emotional eating or any sort of wanting to use food to, cure or buffer intense emotions. And sometimes you're just going to. Sometimes you're just going to be like, I just want to eat my coconut ice cream or whatever it is. And that's okay. It's just recognize that right now I'm self-medicating. And then start to introduce other ways to take care of yourself, to start to bring in joy. This is why for me, the activism stuff, it fills me with joy. It makes life feel very fulfilling and very purposeful. And it's intellectually stimulating to learn about these things. Everything's all connected. And other ways to then take care of myself are using the oils. And I love, I'm diffusing lemon. I have my diffuser going right here. I'm smelling lemon. And, 10 years ago when I was more of a personal trainer and my clients were wanting to lose weight and I was helping them do that because that's just where I was at my, when I was 23 and that's what I was doing. That's as conscious as I was. I would even say, yeah, smell essential oil to help just feel that enjoyment. So you don't need it from food. And, I was reflecting, I was on the right track. The idea is it's not because I need to then lose weight, but it's to really not to really let food be something that nourishes your body and satiates your hunger rather than have it be something that is a way to manage emotions. Because there's other amazing tools, right, to manage our emotions. There are walking outside, there is your yoga class, there is your meditation class, there is the whatever it is, music or art or or reading or bath time or, you know, whatever it is. So really bolstering like so many other ways to show yourself self-care, self-love. Acupuncture, that's one I'm promising myself I'm going to start. I keep saying I'm going to start that, but I don't have a good acupuncturist. If you can suggest one, please let me know. Massage. So that's eating disorders for now. So getting into essential oils, I'm talking about lemon today. It's diffusing. So I previously only used lemon to drink, and I used it to clean my home, but it is amazing in your diffuser. And it's very accessibly priced. It's only like a not even, like $12 essential oil made from the peel. And it just uplifts my mood, makes me feel great. And it's incredibly antibacterial. And I'm beginning to get into the science of essential oils, definitely out of my comfort zone. It's somewhere I'm starting to explore. And I'm starting to read the work of, his name is Kurt Schnabelt. I'm probably not pronouncing that right. Who has been an aromatherapist. He has a PhD since the 80s. And I'm reading his recent book, which is The Healing Intelligence of Essential Oils. I have it here on Kindle, but I'm going to buy the hard copy because it's that good. I usually buy a book first on a Kindle, and if it's amazing, I'll want to rebuy it for a friend or something on hard copy. So here he talks about the efficacy of essential oils and speaks to why there isn't so much research out there now. And I say this because, of course, you know, my brother is always the number one skeptic. I always use these channels mostly to tease my little brother, right? When I got into yoga 5 years ago, he was all anti-yoga. Now he's really into yoga. So now I've been into essential oils for the last year and a half. And he says, you know, he's very like scientifically minded. He's in school doing his psychology degree. He says, well, Jen, they're really, you know, the empirical research shows that it's really just all placebo effect. And what we have to understand with research is that a lot of it has to do with context. And what research or what's important, right? And what's easy to study, and what do we have the tools to study? So, and Kurt Schnabelt has great information about this. So he speaks to the antibacterial power of essential oils. So really, after reading this, there's no reason why we should be cleaning our homes with synthetic products. You can really do everything that you need to do with vinegar and essential oils. So this short paragraph that I had to read because it's so good. He says, the antibacterial activity of essential oils has continuously been researched since the 1880s. Their efficacy against many bacterial pathogens has been demonstrated in countless in vitro experiments. Gasfoss's book has a long list of references to such studies beginning as early as the late 1800s. These studies suggest that essential oils either inhibit bacterial growth or kill the bacteria outright. This is why tea tree is amazing for pimples as well, tea tree oil. You don't want to put citrus oils on your skin because they can make your skin photosensitive, meaning your skin could be more sensitive to the sun. It's a side note. So these studies suggest that essential oils either inhibit bacterial growth or kill the bacteria outright. Possibly the most comprehensive studies were performed by Paul Belach in the 1970s. The language barrier, so this is the important part I want you to listen to. The language barrier has provided an excuse for many Anglophonic guardians of pharmacological orthodoxy to act as if these studies never happened. While antibacterial efficacy of essential oils was demonstrated in petri dish experiments, its mechanisms could not be explained with a square reductionist argument. And he had said earlier in the book that reductionism was the way to study things, right? It's just one method though. And if it's not the method that is most effective, then you can't just say, well, this method doesn't explain it, therefore it's not effective, right? He goes on, unlike antibiotics, which are active due to inhibiting an easily identifiable single target, the activity of essential oils, impairing a bacterium in multiple physiological systems, as well as in a membrane functionality, is only now understood. So that might have been a lot to take in, but basically, because we have, the computer's unlocked again, only now we're having the proper methods to study. So the studies are becoming more apparent because we have the tools to measure them. And we have to remember that we are in a time continuum, right? Just because our research has brought us here, to think that that's the way things are impedes our growth, impedes us moving forward, right? That's the basis of science. You keep performing these experiments to learn new things, and then old so-called like methods and old theories become outdated as new experiments prove new things. And just, I mean, this is like such a crazy example, but I was reading how Pope Francis had publicly apologized for burning all these witches, right? Witches in the name of, he apologized to the pagan community for burning millions of women alive at the stake through the medieval and Renaissance era due to the Catholic faith at the time. So I know that's like a very dramatic example, but Barbara Stanny was talking about that in a podcast this week that I was listening to. And it's just to remember that, in 30 years, we're going to look back and be like, wow, we were so limited in our thinking in 2017. So be open to new research that is out there. And if you're already using essential oils, then, you're an early adopter. And the same thing's happening in yoga. I've been practicing for 10 years and teaching for the last 5. And only now, friends of mine in medical school and in psychiatry and things, only now they're saying, oh yeah, well now meditation is becoming central to the work we're doing. It's only in the last 10 years that exercise was becoming central. Like in the 1950s and 60s, there wasn't even any, research, or no one was even talking about the benefits of exercise. So we just don't take life as it is, okay? Keep your minds open, keep learning. That's why I'm obsessed with this essential oil community, because it keeps me sharp and it keeps me asking questions about, what the capitalist model is selling me, and what the interests of keeping certain methods in place, and why it would be threatening to bring other methods, to be using different kinds of products. And then, now I'm working with doTERRA, and it's opened my mind to how freaking amazing multi-level marketing is. And I don't even think I have any shyness now. I think I'm completely open and enthusiastic about it. But before this experience, this journey that I've been on for the last year, I would be so judgmental. Oh, I'm not an Avon Amway woman, all of these things, just because a few, people had given the industry a bad name, or a few, there had been some illegal pyramid schemes in this. So I just kind of shut my mind down to when I had been approached. Bless Maddie's heart, she approached me in 2014, and it took me over a year to finally get on board. And now I'm seeing that there's this whole world that involves unlimited earning potential. It is a system, it is a way of living that says, no, I'm not going to prescribe to your working 40, 50, 60 hours a week for maybe 40 to 80 to 100 grand a year, which is, yes, a lot of money to some people, but there's still a cap on it. There's still a ceiling. And for what I want to be able to create in terms of a family, in terms of what I want to create in terms of being able to travel, to the time I want to spend with my family, to the way I want to give back, the corporate model just doesn't cut it. Right? It just doesn't. And now in retrospect, when I look back at the I'm smiling. When I look back at the burnout that I had in 2011, I think at the crux of it, as I get more insight, I think it was this sense that I had arrived after getting my master's degree, which was so prestigious, in my eyes, and in my social circle then. And I'd arrived at this job, which took 7 interviews to get in. And it was so competitive. And then I got there and I had been doing it for 6-7 months. And I started to watch my VP in her corner office. And I was like, really? Like, this is your life? This is what you're doing? You're here at 10 p.m. on a Friday and you're looking at this like ad and deciding if you want to use the blonde or the brunette, and this is what your life is? Like, this is horrible. Is this what I'm? And I was like 26 at the time, and this woman is turning 50. I'm like, this is what I'm working towards for the next 25 years of my life? Like, this is insanity. Why are people doing this? And it was just such a, that's what sort of started the shift, although I didn't have the guts to actually listen to it. So I had to actually get really, really sick until I couldn't work, and I couldn't even get out of bed for a month. So thank God for that. Yeah. So life is much better now. So all I have to say is that there are just such amazing options out there. There are just such amazing, amazing, amazing opportunities. And what I've started to see with what I've started to create and some of the amazing people that I'm following, if you don't know Tara Bliss, follow this. She is just this gorgeous little, you don't know, she looks like this sort of like pouty, Kate Mossy, modelly Australian blonde woman. And I'm sort of like, who is this 30-year-old blonde woman? But she's this incredibly inspiring, intelligent writer who is a blue diamond in doTERRA, which means she's making like 30 grand a month or something. That's like completely ridiculous. And she's going to triple that this year. And she is really out there inspiring women. So anyways, there's this whole other world that is available to you if you want it. And there's so much amazing momentum growing on my doTERRA team. I love the women that have been enrolling recently. I love seeing their minds and their hearts just open and explode when they see the possibility that they can live, that they can create. So if this is speaking to you, then please write me. And if you just want to learn about essential oils, I'm doing classes at my home every Thursday this month and every Monday at 6:30 till 7:45. I live in Pointe St. Charles in Montreal. And I'll be doing my first online courses. I'll be doing them Wednesday morning. So tomorrow morning, I'll do my first one. It's going to be an experimental one. So tune in if you want. It will be at 9:15. It will be recorded on Zoom. So I'll have the link to my Zoom it's like a better Skype. So to my Zoom room, which you can do there. You can also watch it on Facebook Live. I'm going to try to do like I do these videos. I always have them going at the same time. So let's experiment like that. Pushing myself into new adventures is the theme of this year. I would love to hear what your themes are. I would just love to hear from you. And I love connecting with you. Lots of love. I'm heading to Breathe now. If you're in Montreal and you want to come to class, I'm gonna go take a booty ballet, whatever. Sorry, Sue, I don't know the name. At 7, and then I'll be teaching hot yoga at 8:15. Okay? Lots of love. Have a great night.